Well, hello there, everyone. This is Heather Leigh, and I'm here to do the Ghost Town Talks. And I want to first off start by thanking Henderson Libraries for inviting me to do this. We're going to start off these programs with some virtual recordings that I've created to talk about, like today's demonstration is going to be what ghost towns are and what makes a ghost town. Upcoming ones will be focused on individual ghost towns, including Goldfield and Nelson. And I will have a list of those that we will be showcasing later on. And just down the road, we're going to be covering different things about these ghost towns. And eventually, once we get moving with these, we are going to open them up to where they will be live so you guys can ask any questions that you have of myself. So if you have any questions now, feel free to write them down, or you could also send them to me via Facebook. I will share my Facebook messenger and Facebook page later on in this presentation. So let's get started. Okay, let's talk about what makes a ghost town. So as you guys know, living in Nevada, you're going to be driving around and you're going to come across an abandoned town, abandoned buildings. So what actually determines if one of these towns is an actual ghost town or not? So basically, many of these ghost towns were founded, and during that big boom in the early 1800s when everybody was moving westward and the gold rush was happening, and because of this, a majority of these ghost towns in the West are in complete ruin. Very few have been well maintained, restored, and preserved. And that's because once the town couldn't serve its purpose anymore, everyone just packed up and left and just kind of abandoned it. Like I'd said, some are completely abandoned and others are considered what we call living ghost towns. These are basically the towns still don't serve their original purpose. So for like Goldfield, it would have been mining. Even though mining still occurs there, it's not its main source of income. But residents still live there and work in these towns or work in neighboring towns. Those are what we would consider a living ghost town. But you also have those completely abandoned ghost towns, such as Rhyolites near completely abandoned, Nelson's near completely abandoned. And it's just a big difference between the two, and it also determines how some of them have been preserved as well. In most cases, as I mentioned earlier, a town will become a ghost town when it suffered a tragic economic loss and it no longer serves its purpose. These types of losses can include prolonged drought, flooding, war, or natural disasters. And those are just a few of the many reasons why towns end up getting abandoned. And after this economic loss, many residents end up leaving the area, just completely abandoning their homes and their businesses. And the town becomes a ghost town because the economic activity can no longer support the day-to-day operations. There's no longer enough people living there to support the local grocery store. There's no longer enough people there that go get their hair cut or go to the barber. And once those businesses can no longer be supported, they end up leaving the town as well. So ultimately, the town's purpose no longer exists. As I mentioned, such as mining here in Nevada was one of the purposes why a lot of these ghost towns were created in the beginning, during the boom. Now you can see the photos. The top photo is of Nelson, and the bottom photo is of St. Thomas that I got from Daniel Jost. And those just kind of show the two differences. You can see St. Thomas is a unique story, which we're going to cover in the future, but that was actually underwater after they built the Hoover Dam, which contributes to it looking in complete ruin. And Nelson has been fully preserved and restored and maintains its excitement and its luster from back in the day. Okay, so popular ghost towns in Nevada. If you want to go on a quick day trip or a small road trip, located near Henderson area, you have Rhyolite, Panamint City in California, Calico, California, Nelson, Belmont, Gold Point. Gold Point is one of my favorite places to go. Good Springs, Goldfield, another popular location I like to visit, Tonopah, and St. Thomas. All of these I will be covering in upcoming ghost town talks to discuss why they're a ghost town, the history behind it, and all of that stuff will be coming up in the future. Other popular ghost towns in the state of Nevada include Belmont, Manhattan, Pioche, Delamar, Pioneer, Potosi, which has an interesting story also, Eureka, Bullfrog, Virginia City, another one of my favorite places to go, Metropolis, and Unionville. Okay, so why are there so many ghost towns in Nevada? This is one of the most common questions I get asked when we talk about the ghost towns. There are more than 600 ghost towns and mining camps in the state of Nevada. Now, the reason behind why there are so many in the state is because Nevada was a booming with newcomers in search of riches. They were coming here in search of gold, silver, and jobs, which was very abundant in the early 1800s. There was so much undiscovered and open land here in Nevada, it was very inviting to those newcomers. Many of the current ghost towns were some of the largest cities in the state at the time. Take Goldfield, for example. That actually started off as the state capital and also was the largest city in the state at the time. Okay. Once there's no reason for new residents to move to a town, the town starts to steadily decline as residents leave. Eventually, residents left in high numbers for many different reasons, including natural disasters, the government shutting down the mining operations, war forced mining efforts to be focused elsewhere, which is what happened in Gold Point, loss of jobs, and no more gold or silver or riches equals no more mining jobs. As more and more residents left, resources started to dwindle in these towns and eventually forcing others to leave the town as well. Okay, so the other question I get is, Heather, why do I need to go visit a ghost town? And I always tell everybody that if you haven't had a chance to visit a ghost town, you need to get out and go exploring. They offer so much opportunity, so much history, and it just takes you back once you step into some of these ghost towns, especially the ghost towns that have been fully restored. You get to see what life was like back then. The ones that are in complete ruins, you get to get a sense of the dread and the sense of when everybody left, how it must have felt when everybody packed up and left. So here are some of my top reasons why you should go visit ghost towns, especially here in the state of Nevada. Photography. Ghost towns offer amazing photographic opportunities, especially if you go to Nelson. They have a photography tour that you can take. It's a great place to get creative and practice your photography skills. History. Visiting a ghost town gives you the opportunity to go back in time. It's almost like you're experiencing history firsthand. Education. Visiting ghost towns gives you the opportunity to explore and learn. You're able to see history and learn about what the town was like back in the day. If you go to these living ghost towns, many of those that live in these towns are generally willing to share their experiences and knowledge with the visitors. This happens a lot in Goldfield, especially if you go to the Florence mine. They give you a tour, and the owners up there are just so open to sharing what they have experienced, the history of the mine, the history of Goldfield. They very knowledgeable group up there. Preservation. Visiting ghost towns helps bring money into the town. This includes through tours, dining, accommodations, or you just shopping in their general store. These help the town maintain itself, help with upkeep, and help with future restorations. And one thing, as a paranormal investigator, paranormal experiences, if you are seeking a paranormal experience, ghost towns are very popular destinations for this. Though not all ghost towns are haunted, which we'll talk about a little bit later, most are, and they offer great potential to experience something paranormal. Okay, brings me back to the questions. Aren't all ghost towns haunted? Well, the answer to that one is yes and no. It may have ghost in the name, but it doesn't mean that there's ghosts living in the town. Not all ghost towns are haunted, but many of these towns do have spirits of former business owners and residents wandering around. Many of Nevada's ghost towns suffered a great tragic past. So in theory, if you are familiar with paranormal investigating, places with tragic pasts tend to hold on to that energy, which can turn into and fuel paranormal activity. Because of the town's tragic past, there is a good chance a majority of ghost towns are haunted by those former residents. However, I have visited several ghost towns, conducted several paranormal investigations throughout the state of Nevada, and there have only been a few where no paranormal activity was detected. This doesn't mean that the town's not haunted. It just means the spirits, if they were there, did not want to communicate with us at that time, or we just weren't in the right location to find them and interact with them. But it also, again, doesn't mean it's haunted either. So in my research, there are several ghost towns where there is no paranormal activity reported. So this either means the residents don't experience anything, residents don't want to talk about it. And does this mean that it's not haunted? Not exactly. Like I said, they could just not wanting to be talking about it or just not experiencing it. There's always a possibility that any location is haunted. But ghost towns have a higher probability of being haunted just because of that tragic past that they hold on to. And they're great places for people seeking paranormal experiences to discover. A lot of these ghost towns, if you want to go on a paranormal investigation or experience something paranormal, if you're not trained or experienced in the field, I do suggest that you take a ghost tour or go on an event where there are trained investigators there who will guide you and help you through the process. I never suggest that you guys go investigating alone or go investigating if you do not know what you're doing. So that's my little disclaimer for this. If you have questions about paranormal investigations, feel free to reach out to me. I know where a lot of them are at these ghost towns, and I can get you in contact with the right people. And then again, however, just because a location is old or considered to be a ghost town, it does not always mean it's haunted. Okay. Henderson area ghost town educational opportunities. I absolutely love these. Clark County Museum. You can see in the top photo, that place offers a lot of history. Mark Hall Patton is amazing. He loves to talk about history, and he is just excited about it. And it shows with the displays that they have there. You can go through and learn about the history of Nevada. And then if you go to Heritage Street, which is located in the museum, it's an outdoor area where you can go into different buildings. And all of these buildings have been relocated from various areas throughout Southern Nevada, or actually throughout the state of Nevada. Each one offers its own history, and there is one there that was actually from Goldfield, which is interesting to go see how they lived back then. Make sure you take a stop by there. Macaw School of Mines. This is a hidden gem and one of my absolute favorite places to go to. It has an above ground simulated mine that you can go through, designed beautifully. Once you step through that entrance, you feel like you're underground. It takes you through the history of mining, how mining works today, and it also talks about mining jobs available today, women in mining, and it's just a very neat and historic place to go to. The place isn't historic, it's not old, but it just takes you through history the minute you walk through that door. And as you can see in the photo down below, it just looks like an old mining town, which, you know, looks like the ghost towns that we see today throughout Nevada. Now, one thing I will be talking about later on before I end this, both of these locations are featured in an upcoming documentary that I took part in. It's going to be called Real Haunts Ghost Towns, where we went through all the different ghost towns in Southern Nevada, and we talk about the history, and both the Clark County Museum and Macaw School of Mines are featured in that documentary. Okay, I did some research real quick for you guys to help you if you want to find out more about ghost towns. Books available at the Henderson Libraries. We have Nevada Ghost Towns and Mining Camps, an illustrated atlas, Romancing Nevada's Past, Ghost Towns and Historic Sites, Nevada Ghost Towns, Preserving the Glory Days, Ghost Towns and Mining Camps of Nye County, Old Heart, Nevada, Ghost Towns and Mining Camps of Elko County, and Ghost Towns of Nevada. Now, these are just a handful of the ones that I found at Henderson Libraries. If you do a quick search for Ghost Towns Nevada, I'm sure you'll find more. You can also find books like this on Amazon, or you can order online from Barnes & Noble, a whole bunch of different places that you can order these from, but these are the ones that I have found at the library. If you want to find more books, feel free to message me once I give you my contact information. I'm more than happy to share different information on how to find details. Okay, our next presentation is going to cover Goldfield, Nevada. This is one of my favorite places to go. I've been there several times, conducted several paranormal investigations for those of you who want to know about the paranormal. The history of the town, and it will include some famous residents who used to reside there, and we'll cover what the town looks like today. As you can see in the photos, I have a photo of the Goldfield Hotel, the gas station that's right across from the Goldfield Hotel, or the garage, and then that little brown building that was down the road from the hotel, and I have some interesting stories about that one to share, but you'll just have to wait to hear them on our next presentation. And then we have the Historical Society, which is located in downtown Goldfield. Okay, so just a little bit about myself real quick. I have a PhD in paranormal science. I've been researching paranormal activity for more than 30 years, but my focus was not just on the paranormal activity. I focused on the history behind each location and why that might help the location be haunted. Currently, I'm the intake coordinator for the Warren Legacy Foundation of Paranormal Research, which was founded by Ed and Lorraine Warren's grandson. I'm on the board of directors for Ghost Education 101. You can find us on Facebook when we talk about all things paranormal. And I'm a regular contributor for the Real Paranormal Magazine UK, focusing on paranormal studies and the science behind the paranormal. Okay, you can also find myself and my family, which is my paranormal team, Exploration Paranormal, featured in the upcoming documentary Real Haunts Ghost Towns, which we just recently talked about earlier in this presentation. That was produced by Motion Picture Video, and we are hoping to release in spring of 2021. You can find me on Facebook at Dr. Heather Leigh or at Exploration Paranormal. And as I said, feel free to message me at either one of those. You can find me on Instagram at Heather Leigh Landon, blogger Heather Leigh Carroll Landon, or Pinterest Heather Leigh PhD. I write a blog where I post daily on that has everything from paranormal activity to historical sites, and I also even throw in some fun crafts. Like at Halloween time last year, I wrote a craft article for kids on how they can make their own ghost knot. So I kind of do like little fun little things on there as well. So I want to thank the Henderson Libraries for having me on for this. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. Please tune in, check my pages or check the Henderson Libraries for our next date. We will be covering Goldfield. And I think the one after that, I'm going to be covering Gold Point. So again, thank you everyone, and I hope to talk to you next time.